In part one of this four-part series on running efficiency and speed, we talked about push. Push being the process of extending the hip and the knee, creating downward force into the ground, propelling our body forward. In part two, we're going to talk about pull. Once the leg has performed the push action, created impulse and force into the ground, and created a forward propulsion of the body, it then goes into a recovery phase. That recovery phase is utilized for two primary reasons. One, to reposition the leg and to get the leg ready to go through another propulsion or another push phase. And number two, if we do this well, it allows us to continue our forward momentum without dragging our forward speed or slowing down our forward speed. So what happens is, as we push into the ground to create that propulsion, that push, we reach our peak output about halfway between mid-stance, where the foot is right below the body, and what we'll call toe off, right before the toe comes off the ground. Once the leg has reached its peak force output in the push, it immediately starts to recover and to produce a movement that will allow the leg to be swung through. So we call this phase either the swing through phase or the recovery phase. It's extremely important, and is actually probably the number one area that people break down in terms of the biomechanics and the efficiency of running. The push is certainly a big key to propulsion and speed, but it's in engaging the next phase, the pull or the recovery, that many people disrupt the overall pattern. What's key about the pattern is that it begins before the foot actually comes off the ground. So really the most common mistake in the pull process or engaging the pull process is the sense of pushing all the way off the ground. So where you almost feel like you're extending even after the foot leaves the ground before you start to pull the leg through. That will disrupt the overall process, drag you or slow you down, slow down the forward momentum, and will create problems for you recovering from the push to reposition for your second push, or not your second push, but your ongoing push pattern. So the key is that the pull or the engagement of the forward recovery phase of pulling the leg forward or swinging the leg forward has to start while the foot is still engaged and still in contact with the ground. So that would be the number one most important part of understanding this. Number two is that when we push into the ground, we want the hip and the knee pushing simultaneously. We want extension at the knee and extension at the hip to occur simultaneously. We want the concurrent force to be produced into the ground. When we pull, we are now engaging flexion as opposed to extension. And flexion occurs in a sequence rather than concurrently. So as we pull our foot, we begin to pull our foot before it even comes off the ground, we engage first at the ankle, then at the knee, and then at the hip. So there's a sequence of events that goes on where when we push, we want hip and knee occurring at the same time. When we pull, we want a sequence that moves from the foot and ankle to the knee and then to the hip.